Hi, guys, and welcome to another edition of The Kevin Moore Show. Now, on today's show, I'm about to be joined by my guest, Katy Bray. Now, Katy is a professional with the unique combination of clairvoyant mediumship and empathic abilities, with a direct, loving approach for those seeking to achieve the next level of confidence and authenticity. Now, over the decades, she has honed her skill not only through education and practice, but also through the very real process of overcoming her own obstacles and doing the hard internal work that's always part of a personal growth journey. Now, Kate's journey to success has also led to help others create the strongest foundation possible for moving forward in their lives. Katy Bray, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me. I'm happy to be here.
Oh, I'm happy to have you on right now. And you got my attention, Katy, because you put a video out there called The Spiritual Meaning of COVID-19. And, there was a time to begin with, right, where I didn't really want to talk about this too much because it was just being covered so much, do you know what I mean, by the mainstream news. And there's enough going on with it right now. I mean, obviously it's very important, right? Of course it is. It's a massive shift in the world right now, in the economy, in people's way towards each other. But to begin with, let's just go straight into your understanding of what you think the spiritual meaning is of COVID-19.
Yeah. So just to back it up real quick, within the scope of my work, which I call energy architecture, is, I work with people where I look at their chakra system. And over my years of working with thousands of people, I've really started to hone in on very specific patterns that I see within people, within the chakra system. So that's just sort of the lens of how I see the world anyway. And one thing that I've been saying for quite a long time now is how I've also seen that the stages of our collective development are also based on the chakra system, or the chakra energy, if you will. So I look at, let's just start in the 40s and 50s, just for the sake of brevity, because we could probably talk about this for the next year. But the decades of the 40s and 50s were very much a root chakra experience, with the ending of World War II and this real rebirth, this reconstruction, this even women started working in a way that they never had before. And the way that food was delivered because of that started changing. I mean, there was so much new life that came, but it was really about survival in a lot of ways. Just the basic ways that we do things, the basic belief systems that we have really started to shift. And in my model of looking at an individual, that really lines up with a root chakra. And so here I was looking at sort of microcosm, macrocosm. And so I started to think, okay, well, if that's true about the root chakra, what does it look like as we work our way up? So I saw that, again, in my interpretation, 60s and 70s were very much a second chakra kind of era, if you will, the energy there, where it was all about revolution. It was all about expression, like creativity, and in some ways, a lot of compulsivity, a lot of addiction, a lot of sexuality, a lot of things that we might equate to an imbalanced second chakra. But there really was this sense of, who am I going to be in this new world? What's my position? That's very much a second chakra experience. And again, it's microcosm, macrocosm. It's the same thing within our own development. So we start to move into the third chakra when we get into the 80s and the earlier part of 90s, where you'll notice that the time starts to speed up a little bit as the chakras do themselves. In the 80s and 90s, we're really working out a lot of ego stuff. There's kind of no other way to say it, that the world, at large, there was a lot of gluttony. There was a lot of more, a lot of grandiosity, a lot of big, a lot of things that we associated with, we could say ego, really. And then by the time we get into the mid 90s and even into the early part of the turn of the century, we're starting to move into the fourth chakra, where we've had a lot of this, blown out of proportion, big everything. And it's like, okay, we kind of exhausted that. Now, what's really true to me? Like, let's just sort of take a deep breath and let me come back to myself a little bit more, because that wasn't really the answer. And so we find ourselves more in that heart-centered energy, that heart space. And, if we even look at certain parts of history, we can see a lot of our government officials and a lot of the things taking place in the world really follow this trend of what I'm talking about. But another thing that's very interesting, I find, about the 90s was that was a big time that the conversation was around the Indigo Children. So the indigos, and the indigo is represented, or the Indigo Child is represented by the sixth chakra. So there was the big talk of, oh, they're being born now and they're teenagers now and they're here to change the world. They see the BS, they see all the crap, and they're going to do something about it because they're strong and they're fierce and they're really dialed into something else that the rest of us aren't. I am an indigo. Many people around in their 40s, 50s are indigos. So we'll get back to that. So that was very much in the 90s. When we get into the earlier part of the turn of the century, we start to move into the fourth and fifth chakras. So we're moving out of the fourth, it's sort of the tail end of the fourth into the fifth, where it's really about discernment and making choices about, am I going to make a choice based off of my third chakra or my programming, my ego programming, or am I going to start to choose based on my essence, on who I am? Where we started to individualize in certain ways and understand, like, gosh, the choices that I make matter, the intentions that I make matter. We start to feel a little bit more tension in a different way of the polarizing of, let's say, essence versus ego. We start to move into that era. Once we get into the 2010s and close up here to 2020, I find is where things get super juicy. And I see that as being the sixth chakra experience. And what I mean by that is it's in the sixth chakra that we experience the dark night of the soul. The dark night of the soul is actually a sixth chakra experience. It's where a lot of our perceptions, based on the beliefs that we created earlier in our development, is really the framework and the way that we see the world. This is where we run into a lot of the right and wrongs, where we run into a lot of polarity because of that. It's sort of like dueling tribes where, no, you're wrong because you're this kind of person. You're wrong because you're that kind of person. And I think a lot of us have been seeing that a whole lot lately, where there seems to appear to be this huge separation in a certain way. And and we've been going through quite a bit of a dark night. There's a lot of heavy stuff that's going on or has been going on. So what I'd been saying for a while was, because we're in this sixth chakra experience, this is actually where the indigos come in. The people who are around, this age, where we're here to do something about this. We're here to champion the global consciousness into that next stage of development, into the seventh chakra, into the new earth. So now's the time. And I kept saying the seventh chakra, of course, is next. I had no idea how it was going to come through. I just knew that that was our next step in this trajectory. And so just a few weeks ago, I had literally a splitting headache. And I kept saying, this is like a splitting headache. And I had a bad fever for a day or two. I was a little achy, but I didn't have any other symptoms. I wasn't ever scared that I had the virus. It was just kind of strange. And it dawned on me as this fever just miraculously vanished. And I said, whoa, wait, splitting headache. I've never understood what that concept meant. Split. It literally felt like my head was splitting. I was like, oh, crown. I was like, the coronavirus means crown. Here we are. We are in the seventh chakra. Some people are still, in the sixth. That doesn't mean that there aren't people across the board, but we're looking at the collective and where the collective energy is going as a whole. And it's really within the seventh chakra that is where oneness is the ultimate truth. And so if you notice, with even a lot of the borders of different countries closing, because, we don't want to spread the virus, we have never been so united as a human global family ever before, like we are this way. And so I find that, and the irony, of course, that this stupid virus itself is in Spanish means crown, is like, that is ridiculously poetic if you ask me. But I see that this is the birthing of the new earth. This is our next stage of development. And we're not going to spend as much time here. Time does speed up. The vibration does speed up. So we're going to move faster through the seventh chakra. We're going to find ourselves in a first chakra experience again, but that's the rebirth opportunity again. That's where we take all of this wisdom, we can take all of this oneness, and we can move into our next stage of development. And we are ripe for it right now. So to me, this is truly the great awakener that we have been preparing for a very long time.
Okay, so for those watching this at this point that may not know about chakras as well, let's just, very briefly, just remind us how you think they work and what's their purpose.
Sure. So, in short, and for some people, even if you've taken a yoga class, it's possible you've heard about the chakras. But we'll talk about the seven primary or the seven major chakras, which run essentially the length of the spine. So there's the root at the base of the spine. And that's often correlates with survival. In my work, I like to look at why is it about those things, and not just say, oh, it's about this. Oh, okay. I like to look at the patterns behind that. But the second one really is it's just under the navel. It's about creativity, resources, resourcefulness. In my work, I also see it as really where a lot of our relationship dynamics take place. That's where there's a lot of control, power dynamics. That's a second chakra experience, which is why the 60s and 70s and the revolution was very much about power dynamics and power structure. The third chakra, which is in the solar plexus, it really is a lot about ego, and not necessarily even bad ego, just it's really where this is who I'm supposed to be, lands energetically. So we're really talking about these energetic imprints that really hold parts of our story. The heart is the fourth chakra at the center of the chest. And I just say it's really our essence. It's obviously a lot more complex than what we have time for here today. But the heart really is essence. And then we move into our fifth chakra, which I see it as our great choice point. We talk about free will here on the earth plane, and I believe that free will has a lot to do with our fifth chakra. It's our point of discernment. For a lot of people, they understand it as expression. The sixth chakra is our third eye. It's our one aspect of our intuition, our perceptions, our ability to see, our ability to visualize is the sixth chakra. And the crown is the energy center that really keeps us connected to the divine, to our oneness.
Okay, thank you for that. And all right, lots to talk about. So you obviously, what you're saying there, if I've got you right, is that the energy that's there now with this mass pandemic is for a change. There's a change that's coming about. I mean, there's obviously a change in the financial markets. There's a change in people's lives, and many people are obviously dying from this as well. So what is life trying to change? What is the gift in this change, do you think?
What I think is that it's giving us the opportunity to understand the true value, not just through the theoretical, but through practical feet on the ground. This is what collaboration and cooperation look like. This is what's available to us as a global human race, that we can cooperate with each other, respect each other, honor each other, and know that we can all take care of ourselves and thrive at the same time. I believe that even with the potential, I mean, I know we're already sort of an economic crisis from this, but I do believe it's going to get a bit worse before it gets better. But the potential of the economics behind all of this can certainly be catastrophic. And yet I think we all, or most of us, know that when we are in some kind of catastrophic event, there is always some kind of rebuild. There is a resourcefulness, there is a creativity, there is a new possibility that is created from the rubble. And so, the things that I would like to see that I also feel are possible is, having more, let's say, minority groups having a voice in our political systems, in different agencies. I believe different agencies can and will be created that are more here to serve the world at large and not just our own little parts of the world. So, not that I believe that we're just, wow, we've had a virus and we're going to become Shangri-La and everything's going to be perfect. I am, believe it or not, very much a realist. So it's not that I think this is a magic wand that's just going to make everything bunnies and rainbows. But what I do see is that there's a huge call to action for those of us who are these people in the world who know that there can be a better way. And it really is our opportunity to understand what that is for us and to do something about it. And for some people, I some of my clients have said, I'm physically disabled. I can't go out into the world. And I'm like, but here's the thing. Let's raise our consciousness still. If we can all raise our consciousness, and what that looks like is, okay, we can acknowledge our physical limitations. That could be time, that could be a limitation of money, that could be a limitation of energy, or potentially even a physical issue that doesn't allow you to do what you want to do. Where we are all in our oneness and equal is when we remember that we really have this powerful gift of using energy and intention. So if you're meditating for 10 minutes a day and you are seeing the globe as being whole and healed and united and healthy, and you're doing energy work on people and you're sending out good intentions, to me, that is a huge gift that you're giving to the world. So I feel that this is a huge call to action to create that tipping point so we can start to move the world into the new earth that, Eckhart Tolle was writing about, 2 decades ago.
Even in the midst of the fearfulness of people that have lost their jobs, that obviously they're fearful that they're going to lose their homes. I know our governments have doing their best right now. They really are to alleviate that and to give people space to, for when this does come back to normal. But there's so much fear right now, the fear of the unknown.
Yes.
And obviously you've only got to watch the news and there's a lot of fear in that. But I do think they're reporting the truth at this point, right? Someone that's living in that much fear and they're listening to this now, and they're like, well, this is just not helping me. But what you're saying is if you went within a bit, even through meditation, some of that burden would be taken away from you, that, it's going to be okay. No matter, you may not know the outcome of this, but you're going to be okay.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's a few things I want to say about that. I think, and you hit the nail on the head. I think one of the primary human fears is the fear of the unknown. For many people, certainly not everyone, but for many people, this moment right here, right now, many of us are okay. Our greatest fears are not happening in this exact moment. That's not true for everyone, but that's true for a lot of us. And so I think that part of this is really bringing us into presence and saying, I know that there is something in this for me. And some of the greatest work that we will ever do spiritually, I think, is to rise out of our own ashes and to make that journey from this earthly existence and feeling like this is all the one reality, and sort of moving ourselves up and coming up here. Now, another thing that I see the fear is that we all have different roles. I believe that there are some of us that are more contracted and there are some of us that are more expanded. And that's not a better than, less than conversation in the least. I believe that we all have a very important role. But even when we look at this idea of contraction, expansion, it mimics labor pains, right? We need people who are helping us sort of move through and sort of pump the energy up and out. So I believe it's not even sort of in spite of the fear, it's in relationship with fear, because we're all human. I mean, we're spirits, but we're having a human experience. So we're going to experience the vast array of emotions and experiences that we're here to have. Most of them are not going to be the ones that take us out. And I think that that's important to remember. We fear pain, we fear suffering, but we're often spending so much time projecting that's what we're sort of assigning to ourselves in the moment, when it's not really even appropriate yet. And I know that's easy for me to say as I sit here in San Diego in this, beautiful weather and all of that. But that's not to say that I haven't had some serious hardships in my life where I've actually had to practice this myself. So I do speak from experience as well, and I don't take it lightly.
What do you think an inner voice would say to someone that's that can't afford food, that can't afford is projecting into the future about they're not going to be able to afford their property, what they're going to do with their careers, they've not got their job, or they may lose their job soon. How do you apply that now to them, to help them out right now? I mean, would meditation allow them to speak to something, a greater part of themselves, in a sense that would calm them down, to say it's going to be okay? And it's not yes, we're living in the real world, but now it's okay right now. What you're saying is that if you project too much into the next few weeks, yes, we don't know the outcome of the next few weeks, but we know right now is okay.
Yeah. Absolutely. In short, yes, I'm a big advocate of meditation. I mean, I've taught it for 14 plus years, and I've practiced it for longer. And it's nothing to be taken lightly. And so I think meditation, definitely, because it's within meditation that we can get guidance. We can get some of those inspired ideas that cause us to go, oh my gosh, that's an amazing business idea, and I only need a laptop to do it. I mean, how many businesses were born from something like that? We just don't know what's possible. And when we limit ourselves, we don't allow in all that's possible from this. And we're so conditioned to not allow that stuff in, that it is a journey to allow ourselves to be there. I also believe wholly in doing breath work. I think breathing techniques and breath work are critically important, because they calm the nervous system. They get the vagus nerve back online, and they bring in our relaxation response, which even allows us to be in mindfulness. So I think breath work is also important. And one last thing that I practice this whenever I have that nagging thing that is just not letting me be, where I remember that to disrupt an energy pattern or a thought pattern, it's to bring in something else. So I will stop and I say, I hear you, and I am open to other possibilities. I am totally open to other possibilities. Even if I don't get anything right away, I just disrupt whatever that pattern is, and I open myself up. And every time I have gotten something that I would have never expected, big and small.
And just in very few words, just to go back to this, what is the spiritual meaning then of COVID-19, would you say, just very briefly?
To me, COVID-19 is the great awakening to the new earth.
Okay, and that's where it comes in. And if people are going to open up their seventh chakra, then the side effects of that, or what's different to open? And I mean, it's not something we can see. This is something ethereal, or something in that sense, is it?
It really depends on the person. I mean, some people, honestly, you might find that you're having more headaches, because that is one of the things that can happen when the energy is moving up and out. So you might actually have physical sensations. Some people, if we're just right now talking about physical sensations, some people are feeling a lot of burning, just at the top of their head. So there are different physical sensations that I have been hearing of people having, people who I have relationship with and don't. I'm just observing. So, there's that. And then there's just the possibility of what else is available to us and just being open to it. Because, I mean, this might sound terrible, but for some of us, like, what else are we going to do right now? Like, there is no harm in being open to something completely unexpected that could potentially be the best thing that ever happened to us. We don't know.
Because it could, even if you lose it all, at the end of this and through the many years or many months, maybe, right, whatever it is, it may have shoved you in a direction that you would have never have gone had this not had taken place, even globally, let alone locally. Do you know what I mean?
Absolutely. And quite honestly, I won't get into the story. At one point in my life, I did lose everything. I literally lost everything. And I had a young daughter with me. I lost everything. I was terrified. But it's true. Like, the life that I built from then on, I would have never done. First of all, I wouldn't have done it if my back wasn't against the corner, because there were parts of myself that I was not accepting or really letting free. And it wasn't until my back was up against the corner that I had nowhere else to run but to actually step into who I was here to be. That I literally lost everything, my home, everything, before that happened.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's another story, right, in its own right. And I know
Yeah, we're not even.
You've talked about that before, and there's other interviews that you can find yourself on, Katy. And just remind us of your website as well.
My website is livewiththelightson.com.
Okay, well, that's coming up on the screen as well throughout this interview. It also teaches us as well how precious life is.
Yes.
We've taken that for granted. We grew up in a time where folks that our parents, maybe if they're a bit older, would have just been born after World War II. They tell us the stories of what it was like for their parents, the mass loss of life and everything else. And we've been so spoiled in some respects.
Yes.
We've not, we have, I mean, 9/11, that shook us all in one sense, but life continued. Do you know what I mean? And maybe we didn't really completely learn lessons from that. But this one's different. This one is 900 a time every day in Italy, 700 in Spain, the UK, other countries about to hit. Obviously, China's had a massive coal as well, in a sense. Mm-hmm. No matter where this came from, it doesn't matter right now. It's here. Yeah. That's the difference. Yeah. And we fear death, don't we? And we don't see life as being so special, and that it teaches us to tell each other that we love each other and say, it could be gone tomorrow.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and I think this is teaching us that every single one of us has significance. I mean, literally, if anyone has ever questioned if they have any significance, we know now that it takes one person to infect thousands of people. And then, to me, what's more significant than that? Perhaps it's not the way that we want to be significant, but if I have ever seen something symbolic of showing how significant and how much impact just one person can do, imagine what we can do with being as positive as we can be, not to the point of rejecting our feelings, because I don't think denying and rejecting our feelings is healthy either. But I think being able to process them and feel them and then find our way up is the way to go whenever we can. We're all so significant. If we knew how significant each and every single one of us was, our minds would be blown.
Well, absolutely. I mean, I'm from the UK. A lot of the top cabinet now has been affected by it, right? Because they've been on the front line. President Trump was tested for it as well. And, I mean, it's like you say, it can infect anybody.
Anyone.
And all this gluttony that we give to celebrities and everything else, we never give that to ourselves, do we? Oh my God, this famous person's died. Oh my God. And you're like,
right.
Yes, they did a lot for other people in the sense of what they gave. But we get so obsessed, don't we? And we don't get that kind of credibility to ourselves, do we? I mean, how many people die a day just normally anyway, and they're never heard of, are they?
Right. Exactly.
So, where can I go from there? There's so much we can talk about. Don't fear death. That's the one thing I would say. I mean, look. I mean, all that's happening here really is people are dying sooner than they was going to, and it's bloody awful. Don't get me wrong. No one wants their loved one to pass quicker than they should have done, especially from something like this. But what can you do? We're all going to get it, and I mean, most people do make it through, and but what can we do? except for, just to, this is the thing, isn't it? That's really going to change people, isn't it? It could have been me.
Right. I agree. And one thing that I want to say, and this has come up with people that I've talked to or who watched another video, and this came up, and I thought it was a really great question. Are there accidental deaths? Do people die before their time? And yeah, and based on my experience, I'm a lifelong clairvoyant. I've done mediumship work my whole life. I do a lot of channeling. Everything I do is channeling. And with every person that I have ever worked with, I volunteered at a hospice at one point. Like I have done this dance in so many different directions. I have not once ever seen anyone die prematurely. There is no such thing. Now, what I have seen, and this is just based on my experience, I do not pretend to know all of the secrets of the universe. I just speak from what I have experienced. I do believe that we have different exit points that we are given the option, and our soul can take it or leave it. And then ultimately, there is that time where we all must go. But in terms of us actually dying before our time, I have not seen. In my view, a lot of that is framed in the eighth chakra, which gives us a lot of information about this lifetime and this experience, our life themes, our soul contracts, all of that information. And in there is where I see when we have choice points, or when it's just not our time. So if we have loved ones, and I now know people who have passed on from this virus, it feels like it is just shrinking, that I actually know people now. 3 days ago, I couldn't have said that. Within the last 2 days, there's 2 people that I know. But it's not before their time. Is it sooner than what we would want? Yeah, of course it's sooner than what I would want. But does it mean that in the grand scheme of the cosmos that it was premature or there was some kind of accident? I don't believe that.
Well, you look at when the Spanish flu was around, and there were people obviously working very closely, looking after them, and they never got it. Right? They never got it, and you've got to say maybe that was because it wasn't, they never gave it the power to that they well look. They never gave it the thought that they were going to have it, but maybe it comes down to actually it just wasn't their time. It really wasn't their time, And it's almost like to get this wake up call of trying to get to that better part of ourselves, to realize that there's a better way to be, and to get to know, to really question everything. That's what it's doing for people, questioning their mortality. That the masses of death that's took place out there so far, and unfortunately the more that will pass on as well, really unfortunate, that it's their gift to us as a wake-up call. Do you know what I mean? But it's having to be done in the masses like this to get the slap round the face.
Exactly. Yeah. And I like you said something that made me think of another thing that's been coming up a lot, and I also think that it's important because I see certain people who just sort of in my bubble who feel like, I'm above this. It's not going to happen to me, which may or may not be true for them. It's, for them, it's not my job to look at where they're coming from with that. I'm sure some it's spiritual bypassing, some it's not. I don't know. None of my business. What I can say is that I believe that there are people who have a deep knowing with certain things about themselves, and they are so vibrationally matched with, I'm not going to get this, or if I get this, it's going to suck and I'll heal from it. It's not what's going to take me out. But there is this vibrational knowing. So that is really what they experience. I see a lot of people who are trying to convince themselves in their minds that they are not going to get it. And unfortunately, what I see that is just really makes people spin their wheels in sort of a fearful, anxious way. And it's not a true embodiment of something that they know. And so I feel that for anyone who resonates with this, that if you can work on the journey of not just trying to willfully, mentally get yourself thinking a certain way, but actually embody what it is that you believe to be true as a fundamental truth in your being. And then I feel that you're going to feel a big difference and such a decrease in the fear and anxiety. And that's sort of the major point. It's almost like it's not about if you get it or not. It's if you are not filled with fear and anxiety for the next weeks or whatever it is in your own pain and suffering, but that you're really dialed into this vibrational truth that can keep you feeling peaceful, because I think that that's important too.
Absolutely, it is. And have you tried to connect yet with any of your guys, or have you connected with anyone that's crossed over yet, to even have that, to try to talk to them about what did they, was this in their contract? What was the reason this is happening to the planet? Has that the conversation happened at all?
It's actually really funny that you asked that, because in my meditation this morning, there was a man one of the people that I knew. There was no question that this was his time. And it was interesting because his death is still so new. There was the part of him, he was not fully of the light yet. He wasn't fully transitioned, essentially. And so there was still not human, but we'll just call it the denser part of him that was still very surprised that this was the way that he went. But I could see this piece integrating into him. It's almost like watching a light take over a dark room is the best way to describe it. That was sort of how he showed himself to me. And that he was very uncomfortable. He felt like he was underwater trying to breathe. And he's like, it is nothing like the flu. It was
No, this is
horrible.
different. No, I mean,
Horrible.
seeing the X-rays of patients that have, like a CT scan that have had the COVID, it's like glass shattering in their lungs. The look of it is, and most doctors, the medical field doesn't. It's such a new virus that it's mutating and everything else. And, it sounds so fearful what I'm saying. I'm just being practical of what's, people that I know that work in the medical field that I've got direct connection with that are telling us what's going on, right?
Yeah.
Not just that they've not got enough ventilators and everything else and oxygen, but it comes back to that point that, the governments and everything, look, government's not going to save us, right? It's we have the power we have the power to save ourselves, but we have the power to be calm with it and know that that we've that life has changed and that it's it'll be okay. It will be okay. And no government's going to give you that reassurance, nor is a news channel. They all play their important part, right? I'm not saying that. I'm just saying,
of course.
But you've got to rely on yourself in times like this, haven't you, in a sense, and go within.
Yeah, I think, it's, and again, like the irony of relying on ourselves to really honor the oneness that we are, that we honor ourselves, we're honoring other people. Like, to me, this is a great opportunity for a deep surrender, like a surrender on an epic scale. Because again, what else are we going to do? We can either fight the tides or we can surrender.
With that gentleman that came through this morning, and he's still going through his own process of realizing how he, that he's crossed over, and he's still got, the mimics of the last minutes of his life where, it was painful. You got to feel what he went through, and obviously where he is now is not that I understand where people go. Even when you with the gift, it's still like it's beyond our conceptualization, isn't it? It's just a knowing that there's more, and this is how we see it. Do you think that a soul like that, without being judgmental, and it does sound judgmental what I'm going to say, that actually he won't be coming back here because there may be no reincarnation back to this kind of planet, in a sense? He'll be going somewhere else because there is a shift of, if you're not prepared to do some change within, this is not the right place for you. And that sounds so cruel, me saying that, right? I'm not trying to be cruel. I'm saying I've talked about this in other interviews where, sometimes if you can't work it out here, there's other places to go to karmically to work your stuff out.
Yeah. I totally hear what you're saying. And I'm with you. Like, it's never about hierarchical or judgmentalness. It's just the way that many of us have seen the way things work. And what I love is they're often so complementary. It's like sometimes we just use different words, but a lot of us are seeing very similar things. So with this man, though, it's interesting, because we did not have that conversation this morning, but as I tune back into him, what I get is that his intention is to come back. His intention is to come back. Now, it's funny because I say that, but I'm still very aware that he isn't fully deconditioned yet. So it's hard for me to discern in this moment which part of him that's coming from.
Yes, and I've always felt that we got the free will to come back. I guess that question seems so cruel. What I asked it, what I was saying before, but it's not meant to be. It's just like, well, is there another reason that if you're not, I mean, I'm just putting questions out there. Do you know what I mean?
Sure.
I'm not trying to, much respect to, love to his family and everything else. It's just, when something like this happens, it's almost like, well, if he's there still, I mean. Maybe there's a question to ask. I don't know. Why is it so many people that are passing right now? Is this the only way for us? Maybe that should be the question. Is it the only way for us to wake up?
That's where I was. That's where I was feeling. With that said, I do also believe in the validity of what you were just talking about. And I think that that's also true. I definitely don't think that we're in an either or conversation.
No,
I think it's more of a yes and.
Multifaceted. Yeah.
Yeah. And so I think both are true. And I do think the staggering deaths and the pain involved with all of this is definitely because if it wasn't this big and grand, it just wouldn't be the wake up.
No, so do you think maybe if you're still tuned in that was part of his gift, as people, I mean, as part of their kind of agreement that they had, if there is such things, or am I just making up words that sound good and that's what I want to hear? Do you know what I mean?
I hear you. I mean, for me, what I get is that that was his important role in this great awakening. That in a way, it's almost once on the other side, you can see the honor of it, that it's sort of dying for a cause. And that's the way it comes through for me.
Then we should see it from the perspective of, of so much, well, I mean, when I hear anyone's crossed, I always, it's always upsetting. I always feel for the people left behind, not so much for those who have crossed, because obviously, they're on a new journey. Do you know what I mean?
They're good.
They're okay. But it's for the people left behind who may never have questioned, does life continue?
Yeah.
It's very confusing and very difficult. And none of us can prove any of this except, it's true for us and that we're more than our body.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I feel blessed to have always felt like I knew that and have always sort of just seen beyond. To me, that is a real blessing.
Was you able to give any messages to that person's family today at all? Just a confirmation that he's okay?
I haven't yet.
No.
I'm friends with his wife. I met him a couple of times. His wife is who I'm friends with.
Yeah. When they're ready, right? When they're ready, you would never, know if it's not the right time. I mean, she's probably in a pretty bad way right now, and yeah.
Well, and she's sick with it as well.
Oh gosh, right.
So I can't really communicate with her, but I will say this: if there was like she's in the hospital, like that kind of sick with it. If I had gotten directive from him, like, you need to get this message to her, I have something to say, I would have tried to figure something out, but it just didn't feel like the nature of the visit.
No, it was for something else, maybe for even to share with us right now and for other
That's
people.
because
You know,
you asked, I was like, well, that's crazy. He just visited me this morning and I hadn't really even talked about it.
What does he feel is our opportunity right now? If there's anything that you feel that he's saying, what's our opportunity as a collective right now?
Really interesting. I'm glad you asked that because I had no idea until you did. He's saying that we must learn to take better care of ourselves, that we have to take care of ourselves. And that is a place that we as humans have really missed the target.
Does that come from self-love as well?
I'm sure it does.
Yeah. Yeah. That could be a very broad message, couldn't it? In many respects, health.
In many respects.
Mindfulness.
Yeah.
Respect for each other. God. Gratitude for the small things.
Yeah, it feels like all of it. Like there's this feeling of we're all, I'm going to generalize, but just as a collective, we're all sort of off. We've been off the mark in a lot of ways, really focusing on the things that aren't important, running ourselves into the ground and not taking care of ourselves, and sort of being in that overindulgent, over like, you know, rah, 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 me, in an unhealthy way. And he's just like, dial it back, take it in, actually have reverence for yourself, know your worth, take care of yourselves, take care of your loved ones. So that's what's like just pouring out of him.
Like that, they would be important key messages. Yeah. And if he's able to still connect, I mean, what is his take on where this is going? I mean, is it a short term? Is it long term? I mean, I don't know if I should even ask those questions. Do you know what I mean? Because maybe that's not for him to answer. Do you know what I mean?
Well, I was going to say, I'm not sure that he has that sense just yet. Or maybe he's protecting us. I don't know. But when I ask, I feel just a total block there.
It's not for him to say, Yeah, I just hear people in the chat asking, to ask that question. Not that this is pre-recorded, but I can imagine, why don't you ask this, why don't you ask that? But, and is he feeling it's time to move forward soon? Is he staying here for now? Is there a lot of souls that are just hanging around right now and that haven't crossed over?
Yeah, there's a lot more than usual, let's say. For him, he's hanging around his wife.
I'm tingling because I knew you was going to say that. I just can't. Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I don't know that she's going to make it.
Do we all have someone that was there someone for him when he crossed over? Was someone waiting for him?
Yes. Yeah.
And it wasn't
actually a lot of people for him.
Yeah, and it wasn't painful, was it, for him when he did move over?
No, and what he said was like he was sort of hovering in and out of his body for a little while, and he just sort of totally disconnected from the pain, and then just sort of elevated, just lifted up and out, and just it was like this big exhale, is what we would call it. Not, obviously not what actually happened for him, but that was the way it felt.
Wow, like a relief, a massive relief.
Yeah.
Yeah. Is he feeling quite healthy right now? Is he feeling like he's got his whole body back?
Yeah, well, it's funny because he's now showing me himself when he was like 22 years old. So I take that as a yes. He doesn't even look exactly like I recognize him, but he doesn't look exactly the way I knew him because he was in his like mid to late 50s. So he's showing me himself younger.
What's his biggest regret right now, would you say?
Not spending more time with his children in their formative years. So obviously very personal to him, and not necessarily, I mean, maybe there's a message in that for someone else, but there's actually, I can feel the sadness in his heart over that.
And is he in a process of forgiving himself for that then, is he?
He's working on it. I think he might have a little more time for that one.
Yeah. Okay. Well, just, thank him I thank you very much, whoever you are. And, appreciate you sharing that with us. Thank you for coming through.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a lot of, within our community as well, there's a lot of people that have gone to the fear porn right now. There's a lot of this QAnon nonsense, and everything else. And so many people get lost in the idea that this is something it's not. Do you know what I mean? And,
Yeah.
And that's their choice. That's their truth.
Yeah.
But what do you think people are missing when they get lost in a lot of noise about the conspiracy of what's going on right now, rather than dealing with their own lives?
I think you said it, and my friend just said it. I keep wanting to say his name, but I feel like for privacy, I shouldn't. I must just said it. Is even if let's just say this whole thing is totally bogus and it's a complete conspiracy and it's a big joke against humanity. Let's just say that for a minute. That doesn't take away from the fact that there is something in this for everyone to learn about ourselves. And so I feel like if there is someone who just is getting spun and just really thinks this is bogus or whatever, just spun up in some way, it's not too much to just sit in your own reflection and say, what is it that I am learning about myself in this? What is in this for me in my evolution? Because at the end of the day, we are here basically in a circus filled room with like fun house mirrors, and we are going to see things in all these different ways. And it really is the way things are reflected back to us, revealing more about ourselves and our own truth. And it doesn't matter what it's actually about.
No, but facts are facts. And if you're working in the hospitals right now and know someone that's
For
working
sure.
there, right, which I
Yeah.
do, they are coming
Yeah.
in all the time, even in the
All the
smaller
time.
hospitals. So
I
it really
know.
is a reflection on their thinking pattern, or what they've chosen in their life, to the energy
Yes.
they've chosen to give things. That it's almost that savior energy again. Oh my God, this person's got the truth. Because they've got a large following, it must be true.
Right.
It resonates with what they're saying, but that's not the facts. If you went out there
No.
and saw it, there is a
Yeah.
lot to learn in discernment when you get into this side of awakening. There is a lot to learn in discernment.
There's so much to learn. And just to say this just real quick, when I say like what's in this, like really look at yourself, it could be that it's someone who is so good at spiritually bypassing that they have been sort of manufacturing and buying their own BS for a long time. And it's time for a reality check. I mean, that could be the hard truth, because I don't think any of the truths that come with this are the easy, breezy kind. They're the kind where it's like, you better look at yourself, whether it's your mortality, whether it's your demons, it doesn't matter what it is, but we are all being asked to take a hard look at some of the things that we might not want to look at.
Well, masturbation feels nice, and so does mental masturbation sometimes.
Yes.
There's no difference.
Yep.
And you can get lost in that side of it as well. And that's,
Yep.
is that really going out there and helping someone around the corner that needs your help? Getting lost
Right.
in all that. I'm not, look, do what you want. There's
Yep.
no, that it's free will. My God, if God gave us
Right.
one thing, if there is a God, and it's just a word for dog spelt backwards, it's just another word for the universe. Then one thing I've learned about life is you can do what you want in this life. You can
Yeah.
murder, you can rape, you can do anything. You can rob, you can be a good person, or and a loving person. You can do all these things, and there's nothing going to stop you doing it. The only
That's right.
person that you've got to answer to at the end of it is yourself.
Yeah.
And that's the hard part.
That's the hard
I mean,
part.
I'm not saying those things are good. I'm saying, look,
Of course.
this is a free will universe.
Yeah. We all have
I
choices.
don't believe in a punishing God, but I do believe in self-punishment, or self-reflection can
Yes.
be the worst thing sometimes to face back up to.
That's the hell. I agree. It's not some place down there. The hell is what happens here
Yeah.
when we're just not really following our true inner compass.
Yeah, absolutely, it is absolutely. Now I know we're kind of getting to the end of this interview right now, because we only had a sort of an hour here, and there's so much that you do in your work, and One thing, obviously, there's your book, Living with the Lights On, right? We never even got to that, right?
It's okay.
But if people obviously want to find out more about it, they can go to the website. But I found it
Yep.
interesting in the title, Living with the Lights On, 90 Days to Multidimensional Living. What is the multidimensional living part of the work that you do?
It's really being aware consistently of the mind, body, and spirit. So I do a lot of teaching energy literacy, if you will. Um, and I believe that we cannot compartmentalize the different aspects of ourselves anymore. So my books are really about how do we do that on a day-to-day basis? It's really a practice. So how do we sort of tune ourselves to being so in sync in our mind, body, and spirit?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, look, I hope people don't think that I've come across a bit doom and gloom about this. I'm not. I know we're going to get out of this, and I know
Mm-hmm.
that we are, but it will never be the same.
Yeah, it won't be the same. It'll be a
No,
new normal, a new world.
it will be. And what would you say again is your most important message right now and this time right now?
For me, it really is about knowing your individual significance in the greater whole, and that we are each one of us so significant. And that if we really remember that, it connects us to our oneness and it eradicates this bogus notion of separation.
Absolutely. Well, your website one more time, Katie, is?
Livewiththelightson.com.
Well, Katie, just thank you so much for joining us right now. And I know our paths will cross again and we've got work to do together, but just thank you for this interview right now.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. It's been a great conversation.